Well, the fight between President Trump and Maine has just gone to a whole nother level. This is a whole issue about whether or not men can compete in women's sports and whether that is in compliance with Title IX requirements. And the answer to that is, according to the federal government, any men participating in women's sports sanctioned by a state or by a university is a violation of Title IX requirements. That means all federal funding gets cut off. And where this is big is because the state of Maine has said, you know what? We're not going to comply as a state. And President Trump has said, well, then we're going to cut off all federal funding to your entire state. This is a big deal. We got some other stories we're going to talk about too, about small business administration shutting down offices in 6 sanctuary cities. We got USAID telling all of their workers to shred and burn all documents. There's a lot going on, friends. We need to talk about this and what this means for things at a larger scale. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And these are the things that the mainstream media is going to brush under the rug, doesn't want you to hear about, doesn't want to talk about, because you're not supposed to know about these things. They think that you can't handle the truth. Well, here, friends, we're going to talk about all this. All right, so Governor Janet T. Mills decided for the state of Maine that they would not comply with the simple premise that there are men and there are women. And that's it. The federal government has set that as the policy of the federal government, that there are men and there are women, and that's it. And because of that, as a consequence of that, Title IX, the law protecting women's sports and making it so that universities, schools have to invest in women's sports so that women have opportunities in sports. One of those main requirements is that women have protected classification. They have their own sports where they don't have to compete against men. Well, when you start making the requirement that the women's sports have to accept men under certain circumstances, like they think they're women, or they choose to want to be women. Well, under federal guidelines that are current now, that would be a violation of women's rights to have independent sports that are where they don't have to compete against men. Title IX violations. And the consequences of this, as I've already stated, is that the federal government, upon a compliance review, can then strip all federal funding to the organization that is in non-compliance with Title IX. Where this gets really interesting is I don't think that was ever envisioned a state, a whole state of the union, to be in non-compliance. Because Title IX will allow President Trump, at least that's what he's alleging, to strip the state of Maine of all federal funding completely, which is a big deal. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for everything from roads to their universities to their local schools, security, for FBI police assistance, grants to local police departments for vehicles and all those kinds of things. It's a lot of money. And Janet T. Mills has decided that her state doesn't need any of it. What they need is they need to resist and to fight the government and President Trump. We'll see how this goes. There was just a recent showdown where Janet Mills was in Washington, D.C. at a lunch or something like that President Trump had, and President Trump called her out on that. And she said, yeah, we're going to resist you. And President Trump said, well, then we'll see you in court. We'll see you in court. And then he also predicted that she won't have a future in politics. which is probably a pretty good guess there, because even amidst the Democrats, this is not a popular thing. Forcing men into women's sports is not a popular proposal, even for Democrats. The vast majority of Americans overall don't think that's a good idea. All right, so moving over to USAID, at their offices on Tuesday, they were ordered by their higher-ups to shred and burn all documents. And Tuesday, they went into the office and they started shredding documents, basically the paper trails of where all that money was going. And this was done without the sanction of DOJ. This was done without the sanction of Marco Rubio, who is now in charge of USAID. However, we have heard that orders have come down to stop and to cease doing this. And so we did not hear about this on Wednesday. We haven't gotten full confirmations on everything that's going on over there right now. But this was, reports are that some people got fired because of these orders. But how many documents were destroyed, how many were shredded and burned before this got stopped? That's a big question. Because when we really get down to it, Elon Musk and DOJ, they're not finding wasteful spending, okay? I mean, that's by and large, they're finding some of that, but they're not finding wasteful spending. They're finding kickbacks, money laundering, and just outright theft. This money by the billions is being stolen. And you wonder how these politicians can make several $100,000 a year, have these massive mansions, and somehow are now worth $70, $80, $100 million apiece. You kind of like, well, where did they get all that money from? It's these kickbacks. It's the theft of public funds that are going into nonprofits, and then the nonprofits are then giving them massive book deals, giving them tons and tons of money, and they have to know where the money's coming from. They don't want any oversight over these massive bloated programs because they're getting massive benefits, and these rich billionaires are getting so much money in the background. Bill Gates and these other billionaires, Soros, they are skimming billions of dollars off the federal budget. And I said billions with a B. No wonder these people want to stop him at any cost. The Small Business Administration, which issues small business loans, has been audited. And there are some discrepancies that we've found so far. In the year 2020 to 2021, that was a busy year with a lot of cough and everything. $312 million were issued in loans to people whose Social Security numbers indicate that they were 11 years old or younger. $312 million in loans to children who are too young to be starting their own businesses. Now, that could be possibly, but highly unlikely. Also very unlikely, $333 million in loans were given to those who are 115 years or older to start new businesses. I'm sorry, but if you're 115 years old or 116 years old, you're probably not starting a new business right now. I'm just going to go on the limb and kind of guess that. So we're talking about over $600 million in just 1 year were given fraudulently, very evidently so from the ages, but it's even more than the ages. Also, not only were they too young or too old to feasibly be getting a loan, but also the names didn't match the Social Security numbers. You'd think that before issuing over $500 million worth of small business loans, they would have done a simple check to see if the name matches the Social Security number. But that would be giving the federal government too much credit. Small Business Administration was issuing loans to people whose name did not match their Social Security number and their ages were ridiculously suspect. Many of these people that received the loans were dead. Now, $500 million in just 1 year, that's bad. Then you start extrapolating that to how many other years do they do very similar things. $500 million, where did it all go? Well, it's not getting paid back because those people don't exist. Absolute insanity. So, one of the things that has happened in just the last week is that they have they've chosen to close 6 satellite offices for the Small Business Administration. They've closed them in 6 sanctuary cities: Atlanta, New York City, Boston, Chicago, Denver, and Seattle. Now, why do they need to close these? Well, because they realize that they're not going to need them. Why won't they need them? Well, because they've added an extra step. It's just an absolutely insane step to be putting on this loan issuance. Before you issue these loans, they're going to check to make sure that the people receiving the loans are U.S. citizens. Crazy. So only U.S. citizens who are using a valid Social Security number that matches up with their name are going to get loans now. And this is going to save billions of dollars per year. It's stuff like this, where it's not even just wasteful spending. It is outright fraud. The law is being violated, and people are just stealing money from the federal government. It's a situation like this that makes DOGE absolutely necessary. The Department of Government Efficiency really should be renamed Department of Stopping Theft from the Federal Government. And at the center of much of this money being stolen are the politicians. These politicians and these political parties have been at the center of structuring this massive theft of public funds. When we get down to this and we start finding, once we get into the major programs of Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, we're going to find that at the end of the day, we may be having stolen from us $1 trillion or more per year in illegitimate, illegal theft. $1 trillion a year. You wonder what makes the United States economy keep spinning? Is this massive theft, and then those people who have stolen that much money buying yachts, buying homes, buying all sorts of things with all of that illicit money. You wonder how Bernie Sanders can drive around in a super sports car while berating the ultra-rich, and nobody ever looks at him and goes, "How many houses do you have again, Bernie?" Nancy Pelosi, worth over $70 million. How does she get so rich? Is it any surprise? Insider trading and all this theft of money. And these people are massively getting richer, but at the same time, they're spending just ridiculous amounts of money. Ridiculous amounts of money. They are living it up, living the high life. It reminds me of the movies, the Hunger Games, with all the pink-haired and the capital people there. While the nation was starving, the capital people are living at large. And it's like, that's exactly what's happening here in the United States. The people, by and large, are struggling to put food on their table back home. But at the same time, we have these people in the capital stealing hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Possibly $1 trillion a year, approximately. Not wasteful spending, absolute outright theft. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below about what's going on. Do you think the stripping Maine of its funding, federal funding, is going to be enough to bring them into line? Do you think this culture war is going to be able to be won, or is this going to turn into an outright war, a civil war? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Appreciate all of you being part of the Watchman community and keeping you up to date on what's going on and keeping you ahead of the curve. All right, friends, if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.